The holographic map of the galaxy floated in the center of the Grand Council chamber. It showed thousands of stars in blues, greens, and purples. But one section glowed red. That section was human space, and every species in the galaxy knew to stay away from it. Ambassador Kira Minseo stood quietly at the back of the chamber. She was the only human present among the hundreds of alien delegates. Her dark hair was pulled back neatly, and her face showed no emotion as she listened to the others talk. "The regulations are clear," Speaker Vorn announced. His 3 eyes blinked in sequence as he addressed the council. "No vessel may cross into the red zone without explicit permission from the human government. This has been our policy for 70 years. 70 years of wisdom," added Counselor Thresh, her scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "Before that, we lost too many ships. Too many good people." Kira had heard these discussions many times. The galaxy feared human space more than they feared black holes or neutron stars. At least those dangers were predictable. Humans, the galaxy had decided, were not. A commotion at the chamber entrance interrupted the meeting. Guards tried to stop someone, but a figure pushed through. It was Empress Valix of the Vex Empire. Her blue skin looked pale, and her usual proud posture was broken. She was crying. "Please," she said, her voice cracking. "My son, my Thalax. His training ship malfunctioned near the border. He crashed somewhere in human space. He is only 17 cycles old." The chamber fell silent. Every delegate knew what this meant. The young prince was lost in the one place no one dared to go. Emperor Krex appeared behind his wife. His face hard with controlled anger. "We demand his return. The Vex Empire will pay any price. Send your best rescue teams." Speaker Vorn's eyes closed one by one. "Your Majesty, you know we cannot. The regulations exist for good reason. Human space is forbidden. My son is a child." The Empress sobbed. "Surely they have children too. Surely they would understand. Sinsky, my son, in dimension, my son, the humans are not cruel," Counselor Thresh said carefully. "But their space is wrong. Our ships that enter do not return the same. Our sensors fail. Our navigation systems go mad. Time itself seems to flow differently there." Kira listened to them talk about her people like they were monsters. She had heard it all before. The stories grew wilder every year. Some species said humans could breathe in space. Others claimed humans ate their enemies. One species believed humans were actually machines pretending to be organic life. The truth was simpler and somehow more frightening to the galaxy. Humans were just very, very good at surviving. "I will go," Kira said, stepping forward. Her voice was quiet, but it carried across the chamber. Every head turned to look at her. The Empress's eyes widened with hope. "Ambassador Minseo," Speaker Vorn said slowly, "you would lead a rescue mission into your own space?" "The boy is innocent," Kira replied. "If his ship's beacon is active, we can find him. I will take volunteers who are brave enough to cross the border with me." "Brave or foolish," muttered one of the delegates. "Tell me," Kira said, looking directly at that delegate. "What do you think happens in human space? What exactly do you fear?" The chamber erupted with voices. Everyone had a story. Everyone had heard something. The stars themselves bend wrong there. Our ancestors sent a fleet once. Only one ship returned, and the crew had aged 30 years in 3 days. The humans have weapons that can crack planets. I heard they keep prisoners in eternal darkness, feeding them to creatures from their death world. Kira raised her hand, and the chamber slowly quieted. "I can promise you this," she said. "The young prince will be returned safely. Human space is not what you think it is, but you will never understand unless you are willing to see for yourself." Commander Zik stood from his seat. He was a veteran warrior from the Kronar species, covered in battle scars. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. "I will volunteer. I have fought in 30 campaigns. I do not fear human space. Others began to volunteer, though Kira could see the fear in their eyes. A medical officer, a navigator, a communications specialist. In total, 8 aliens agreed to join her. The Empress approached Kira and took her hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. I do not care what the stories say about your people. You are trying to save my child. We will bring him home," Kira promised. The council quickly approved the mission. They gave the rescue team the prince's last known coordinates and the frequency of his distress beacon. Then, Speaker Vorn pulled Kira aside privately. "Ambassador, I must ask, why do humans make their space so difficult to navigate? Why all the secrecy and defense systems?" Kira looked at him for a long moment. "Speaker Vorn, has your species ever faced extinction? No. We have been fortunate. Humanity has faced it 6 times on our own world, twice from natural disasters, once from disease, 3 times from wars we fought against ourselves." Kira's voice was steady. "We learned that safety is an illusion. We learned that you must be ready for anything, at any moment. That is why our space seems wrong to you. Because we never, ever, let our guard down." Speaker Vorn's 3 eyes all focused on her. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," Kira agreed. "But we are still here." The rescue ship departed the next morning. It was a small vessel with a crew of 10, including Kira and pilot Han Ji-woo, another human who would help navigate their space. Han was young but skilled, with quick hands and quicker instincts. As they approached the border of human space, the alien crew members became visibly nervous. Their instruments started giving strange readings. The stars ahead looked somehow sharper, more defined than they should be. "This is it," Han said calmly. "Once we cross, stay calm. Do not believe everything your sensors tell you." "What does that mean?" asked Commander Zeeks. Kira smiled slightly. "It means welcome to human space, Commander. We hope you survive the visit." The ship crossed the invisible line that marked the border. Immediately, alarms started blaring. The navigation system showed they were in 5 different locations at once. The sensors detected weapons locks from every direction. The medical scanner claimed the crew was both alive and dead, and in the distance, the stars began to move in ways that made no sense at all. The aliens gripped their seats, eyes wide with terror. But Kira and Han simply turned off most of the alarms and adjusted their course. "Just a normal day in human space," Han said cheerfully. Commander Zeke stared at them both. "How do you live like this?" "Practice," Kira replied. "Lots and lots of practice." The rescue ship moved deeper into human space. The alien crew members could not shake the feeling that something was watching them. Their instincts screamed danger, but nothing attacked. It was the worst kind of fear. The kind that came from waiting. "Why does everything feel so wrong?" asked Nurse Tillix, the medical officer. Her antenna quivered with anxiety. "The sensors say we are surrounded by ships, but I see nothing." Han Ji-woo glanced at his instruments and nodded. "That is because you are surrounded by ships. Hundreds of them." The crew went very still. "But you cannot see them," Han continued. "Because they are hidden, disguised as asteroids, debris, even satellites. Some are inside hollowed-out moons. Others are painted to match the stars behind them." Commander Zeke's 4 hands slowly moved to his weapons. "You are telling us we are in a trap?" "No," Kira said calmly. "We are telling you that you are safe. These are defense platforms. They have been tracking us since we crossed the border. They know who we are and why we are here. They will not fire." "How can you be certain?" Commander Zix demanded. Kira touched her communication panel. A voice answered immediately in Korean, and she responded in the same language. Then she switched to Galactic Common. "I just confirmed our mission with Defense Station 17. They say the Prince's distress beacon is active. He is alive on Colony World Taesong. About 6 hours from here. Defense Station 17? Tillix looked at her instruments. I detect no such station. Look at the large asteroid at bearing 315, Han said. They all looked. It was just a dark, spinning rock. Now watch. Han pressed a button. The asteroid suddenly lit up. Lights appeared across its surface. Weapons, ports opened. What they thought was a natural object was actually a massive military station. Easily the size of a small moon. Stars preserve us. Someone whispered. That is just one station, Kira explained. There are thousands throughout human space. Some are automated. Some have crews. All of them are connected to a network that covers every cubic meter of our territory. Why? Commander Zeeks asked. His voice was strained. Why so much defense? Who are you afraid of? Everyone, Kira replied simply. The journey continued in tense silence. The alien crew kept discovering more hidden defenses. A cargo ship that was actually a destroyer. A mining drone that carried enough explosives to vaporize a fleet. Even the space debris seemed suspicious now, but what disturbed them most was that nothing fired. The weapons tracked them constantly, but no one pulled the trigger. Humans watched and waited, and somehow that was more frightening than violence. I heard a story once, said Navigator Plesh, speaking for the first time since they crossed the border. My grandfather's grandfather served in the first contact fleet. When we discovered humans, we thought they would be easy to conquer. They had barely left their own planet. They had primitive weapons. What happened? Asked Tillix. The contact fleet sent 3 ships to Earth as a show of force, just to intimidate them, make them understand their place in the galaxy. Plesh's voice grew quiet. The humans destroyed all 3 ships before they reached orbit. Used missiles with chemical propulsion. Basic technology. But effective. And one. People seeing. And one. I heard a different version, another crew member said. I heard the humans captured the ships and studied them. Learned everything about our technology in less than a year. Both stories are true, Kira said. We destroyed 2 ships and captured 1. We are very good at learning from our enemies. Commander Zeeks studied her carefully. You say that with no pride. Just fact. It is fact, Kira confirmed. Humans learn. We adapt. We survive. That is what we do. The ship finally approached Colony World Taesong. It looked peaceful from orbit. Green fields, small settlements. A few industrial areas. A normal farming colony. But as they descended, the crew noticed details that did not fit. The agricultural buildings had reinforced walls. The irrigation systems could be quickly converted to fire suppression networks. Even the farming equipment looked like it could be modified into weapons. Your farmers live in fortresses, Commander Zix observed. Our farmers live on a colony world far from Earth, Kira corrected. They know no help would arrive in time if something went wrong, so they prepare to help themselves. They landed at a small medical facility. Dr. Park Soo-jin met them at the entrance. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She bowed slightly in greeting. Ambassador Minseo, welcome. The young prince is inside. He is physically healthy, but mentally shaken. May we see him? Commander Zeeks asked. Of course. Follow me. They found Prince Thalax in a recovery room. The young Vex Royal looked small in the hospital bed. His blue skin had lost some of its color, and his hands trembled when he saw them. Commander Zix, he said, relief flooding his voice. You came. I thought no one would dare. Your mother begged the council, Zix said gently. We could not refuse her. Thalax looked at Kira and Han. The humans saved me. My ship crashed in the mountains. I was injured and alone. They found me within hours. Brought me here. Treated my wounds. He paused. They did not ask for anything in return. Why would we? Dr. Park said. You needed help. Way "Way would we, but I am Vex," Thalax said. "My empire has never aided humanity. We voted against every proposal you have made in the council. We do not even trade with you." Dr. Park smiled. "That does not matter. You were hurt. You needed a doctor. I am a doctor. It is simple." Commander Zix watched this exchange carefully. He was beginning to understand something. Human space was not defended because humans were conquerors. It was defended because humans expected to be attacked. "Prince Thalax," Kira said quietly. The prince's face went even paler. His hands gripped the bed sheets. "I saw something. I witnessed something I do not think I was meant to see." "Tell us," Commander Zix urged. Thalax took a shaky breath. "My ship's malfunction happened because I flew too close to human space. I was trying to prove my bravery to my father. But as my systems failed, I drifted across the border. That is when I saw them." "Saw who?" Kira asked. "The Ravagers," Thalax whispered. Everyone in the room went very still. The Ravagers were a predatory species that had destroyed 3 empires. They appeared without warning, took everything, and left only corpses behind. They were the galaxy's nightmare. The Ravagers were attacking a human colony. Not this one. Another one. Smaller. I watched from my damaged ship, hidden by the debris field. Thalax's voice shook. There were thousands of Ravagers. Their ships covered the sky. They dropped troops onto the surface. They expected an easy victory. "What happened?" Commander Zix asked, though part of him did not want to know. "The humans fought back," Thalax said. "But not like any military I have ever seen. These were farmers, families, children. Within minutes, they organized. They took weapons from places I had not even noticed weapons could be hidden. They turned their farming machines into war machines. They used the land itself as a weapon." Dr. Park nodded slowly. "That would have been Colony Cybiok. We heard they had some trouble last week. They were attacked by..." "Some trouble?" Thalax's voice rose. "They were invaded by the Ravagers. The species that destroyed the Krell Empire." "Yes," Dr. Park said calmly. "And Colony Cybiok survived. They always do." "And?" Thalax stared at her. "You speak of survival. I watched them win. I watched farmers capture Ravager warships using nothing but tactics and determination. The Ravagers fled. The Ravagers. They ran from farmers." Commander Zix felt cold. He finally understood what they had discovered. Human space was not dangerous because of technology or weapons. It was dangerous because every human, everywhere, refused to be a victim. "Now you understand," Kira said quietly, "why no one enters human space." Commander Zix asked the question everyone was thinking. "May we see this Colony Cybiok? I must know if what the prince says is true." Kira exchanged a look with Dr. Park. The doctor nodded. "I will arrange transport. But I warn you, the colonists are still cleaning up from the battle. It is not a pleasant sight." They traveled in a ground vehicle across Taesong's landscape. Prince Thalax insisted on coming despite his injuries. He needed them to believe him, to understand what he had witnessed. Colony Cybiok was only 2 hours away. As they approached, the signs of battle became clear. Scorch marks on the ground, damaged buildings, pieces of Ravager ships scattered across the fields like dark metal seeds. But what shocked the rescue crew was that the colonists were already back to work. Farmers were repairing tractors. Children were helping clear debris. Life had simply continued. A tall man approached their vehicle. He wore simple farming clothes, stained with dirt and what might have been blood. His face was weathered by sun and hard work. When he smiled, it did not reach his eyes. "Ambassador Minseo," he said, with a slight bow. "We were not expecting official visitors. Forgive the mess. We had some uninvited guests." "Lee Hyun-woo," Kira greeted him. This is Commander Zeeks and his crew from the Galactic Council. They are here to rescue Prince Thalax. The prince claims he witnessed your battle with the Ravagers. Lee glanced at the young prince. You were in the debris field. We detected your ship but could not reach you during the fighting. I am glad you survived. You knew I was there? Thalax asked. We know everything that happens in our space, Lee replied simply. Even during an invasion, Commander Zeeks looked around at the damage. The prince says you defeated the Ravagers. The Ravagers who destroyed 3 empires. With farming equipment, Lee shrugged. We used what we had. Would you like to see? He led them through the colony. As they walked, he explained in a calm voice, as if describing how to plant crops instead of how to win a war. The Ravagers arrived 6 days ago. Their ships appeared without warning. 15 large vessels, maybe 60 smaller ones. They started by trying to jam our communications. Lee pointed to a tall structure. That is our grain silo. It doubles as a communication relay. Reinforced walls, deep foundation, independent power. They could not jam it. You built your grain silo to resist military jamming? Tillix asked in disbelief. We built everything to resist everything, Lee replied. We are human. We plan for the worst. They reached what looked like a normal farmhouse. Lee pushed open the door. Inside was a weapons cache that could arm 50 people. Rifles, explosives, medical supplies, ammunition, all organized and ready. Every building has one, Lee explained. Every colonist knows where they are and how to use them. When the Ravagers landed troops, we were armed. Within 3 minutes. 3 minutes, Commander Zix repeated. From farmers to soldiers in 3 minutes. We are always soldiers, Lee corrected gently. We just farm between battles. They walked to the edge of the colony where the main fighting had occurred. The ground was torn up by explosions. Several Ravager landing craft sat broken and abandoned. They sent shock troops first. Lee continued his explanation. 200 Ravagers in heavy armor. Very strong. Very fast. They expected to slaughter us quickly. What did you do? Prince Thalax asked. We let them land, Lee said. Then we used the irrigation system. He showed them the network of pipes that ran beneath the fields. These normally carry water to the crops. We diverted them to carry fuel. When the Ravagers concentrated in the landing zone, we opened the valves and lit it. The rescue crew looked at the blackened earth. It was not hard to imagine what had happened to the Ravagers standing there. That is, Tillix searched for words. That is brutal. That is survival, Lee replied without emotion. They came to kill us. We killed them first. They continued the tour. Lee showed them how colonists had modified construction equipment into weapons, how they had used knowledge of the terrain to set traps, how they had communicated using old-fashioned radio when the Ravagers expected them to rely on modern systems. Every tactic was simple, Lee explained. Nothing fancy. Nothing high-tech. Just basic strategy and absolute commitment. But how did you capture their ships? Commander Zeeks asked. The prince said you took warships. Lee smiled for real this time. That was Minho's idea. My son. He is 14. A child planned a starship capture? Commander Zix could not believe it. Minho plays strategy games, Lee said proudly. He noticed the Ravager ships always landed in the same formation. So we hid charges beneath the landing zones on the second day. When they landed again, we disabled 3 ships at once, boarded them before the crews could react. They reached one of the captured ships. It was massive, dark, and covered in weapons. Human engineers were already taking it apart to study. We learn from every enemy, Lee said. Now we know how Ravager ships work. If they come back, we will be ready. Dr. Park had joined them. She added her own perspective. After the battle, we treated wounded Ravagers. 17 of them survived. We gave them medical care, fed them, and then sent them back to their people with a message. What message? Asked Tillix. That humans do not start fights, Dr. Park said. But we always finish them. Commander Zix walked away from the group. He needed a moment to think. Everything he had believed about warfare, about military might, about strength, it was all wrong. The galaxy measured power in ships and weapons. Humans measured power in will and adaptability. Lee followed him. You are troubled, Commander. I have fought in 30 campaigns. Zix said quietly. I have led armies. I have won battles against terrible odds. But I have never seen anything like this. You are farmers. You have families, homes, lives. Yet you fight like you have nothing to lose. We have everything to lose. Lee corrected. That is why we fight so hard. Commander, do you know what Earth is like? I have heard it is a death world, dangerous. Lee nodded. Everything on Earth tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the ground beneath our feet. We learned that safety is temporary, that peace is a luxury, that you must be ready to defend everything you love at any moment. It sounds exhausting, Commander Zix said. It is, Lee agreed. But we are still here. Still growing. Still building. That is what matters. Prince Thalax approached them, his face serious. Lee Hyunwoo, I must ask. When you saw my ship in the debris field, why did you not ask for help from my empire? Why did you fight alone? Lee looked at the young prince with something like sympathy. Because help would not have arrived in time. It never does. Every human colony knows this. We are always on our own when it matters most. That is a terrible way to live, Thalax said. Yes, Lee agreed. But it is effective. As they returned to the transport vehicle, Commander Zix finally understood the truth about human space. The wrongness that aliens felt was not supernatural. It was not strange technology. It was the psychological weight of being in a place where everyone, constantly, was ready for war. Humans had turned vigilance into a way of life. They had weaponized their own paranoia. They had made peace with the idea that safety was an illusion, and somehow, they still managed to be kind, to save a stranded prince, to treat wounded enemies, to offer help when asked. That contradiction, more than anything, was what made humans truly terrifying. They could be gentle and brutal in the same breath, compassionate and merciless in the same moment. No wonder the galaxy feared them. No wonder no one dared enter human space. Because once you understood humans, once you truly saw them, you had to face an uncomfortable question. What would you sacrifice for survival? How far would you go to protect what you love? Humans had answered those questions long ago. Everything. Always. Without hesitation. That was why the stars themselves seemed to bend in human space. Because humans had bent reality to their will through nothing but determination and refusal to accept defeat. The rescue crew prepared to leave Colony Taesong with Prince Thalax. They had seen enough. They understood now why the galaxy feared human space, and they were ready to return home with their stories. But the Ravagers had other plans. The alarm started screaming just as they reached their ship. Han Ji-woo checked his instruments, and his face went pale. We have incoming. Multiple ships. Ravager signatures. How many? Commander Zix demanded. 47, Han replied. And they are angry. Lee Hyunwoo ran up with several other colonists. They were already armed. They came for revenge. They want to punish us for defending ourselves. Your defense platforms, Commander Zix said quickly. Activate them. Call for help from your military. The nearest military base is 3 days away, Lee said calmly. And the platforms are already active. But Commander, those ships are not coming for us. They are coming for you. What? They detected your ship, Lee explained. They know the prince is here. They want him. They want to prove that even a Galactic Council rescue mission can be destroyed in human space. It would damage humanity's reputation and terrify the galaxy. Prince Thalax looked sick. This is my fault. I should never have come here. No, Kira said firmly. This is the Ravagers' fault. They chose to attack. Now, we choose to defend. The sky above them began to fill with Ravager ships. They were massive and dark, built for terror as much as combat. Their weapons charged with ominous light. Then, something strange happened. The asteroid field around the colony started moving. Rocks that had floated peacefully for years suddenly powered up. Hidden weapons emerged. Defense platforms that looked like debris revealed their true nature. A cargo ship that had been in orbit transformed. Its hull panels fell away, showing weapons that could crack moons. What the rescue crew thought was a civilian vessel was actually a warship in disguise. "Welcome to Protocol Sanctuary," a voice said over the communication system. "This is Captain Choi Min-jun of Defense Station Taesong. All civilian and diplomatic vessels, please remain calm. We will handle this." Captain Choi's face appeared on their screens. He was older, with gray in his hair and scars on his face. His eyes were calm despite the approaching fleet. "Captain," Commander Zik said, "there are 47 Ravager warships. You cannot possibly..." "Commander, I have been defending this sector for 15 years. I have faced worse." Captain Choi smiled slightly. "Besides, we are not alone." All across the colony, structures began to transform. The grain silo opened to reveal missile batteries. The water treatment plant's roof slid back, exposing anti-ship cannons. Even the school building had hidden defenses. "Everything is a weapon," Lee said. "We told you. Everything." The Ravagers opened fire first. Beams of energy and missiles streaked toward the colony. The rescue crew braced for impact, certain they were about to die. The attacks never reached them. Human defensive fire intercepted everything. Not a single shot made it through. "They have good aim," Captain Choi observed. "But we have better planning." The battle truly began. The Ravagers sent wave after wave of attacks. The humans responded with precise, economical fire. They did not waste ammunition. Every shot had a purpose. But the rescue crew noticed something odd. The humans were not fighting to destroy the Ravager fleet. They were fighting to protect the rescue ship. "Captain Choi," Kira said, "you are sacrificing strategic advantage to keep us safe." "Yes," Choi replied simply. "The prince must return home. That is more important than tactical efficiency." "But why?" Prince Thalax asked. "My empire has never helped you. We do not even like you." "That does not matter," Captain Choi said. "You are a child who needs to go home to his mother. That is all the reason we need. We need." Commander Zeeks watched in amazement as human forces coordinated perfectly. Colony defenders worked with space stations. Civilian-turned soldiers followed orders from military commanders. Everyone knew their role. They practiced this, he realized. They practice being invaded. Every month, Lee confirmed. Every single month. Drills, training, coordination exercises. We never stop preparing. A Ravager ship broke through the defensive line and headed straight for the rescue ship. It launched fighters that screamed toward them. Then the school building fired. A massive electromagnetic pulse disabled the fighters in seconds. They tumbled harmlessly away. The school? The building where children learn? Where children learn to survive, Dr. Park corrected. She had moved to the rescue ship to ensure Prince Thalax's safety and to protect others. The battle continued for hours. The Ravagers kept coming, but human defenses held. Captain Choi coordinated the defense with quiet competence, never raising his voice, never showing fear. But the humans were paying a price. Several defense platforms were destroyed. Colonist soldiers died protecting positions. The mining station took heavy damage while shielding the rescue ship. "We need to retreat," Commander Zeek said. "You are losing people for us." "No," Captain Choi said firmly. "We are winning for you." There is a difference. Kira understood what he meant. Humans did not measure victory by who died. They measured it by who they saved. The turning point came when the humans stopped defending and started attacking. Captain Choi had been studying the Ravager fleet during the entire battle, learning their patterns, identifying weaknesses. "All units, switch to assault pattern, Minho," he ordered. Lee smiled grimly. "My son's strategy. The one he used to capture their ships." 1. The humans had let the Ravagers establish a formation, thinking they had humans trapped. Now, that formation became a cage. Human forces struck from unexpected angles, using the Ravagers' own ships as obstacles. 3 Ravager vessels collided, trying to avoid human fire. 2 more were disabled by precision strikes to their engines. The rest began to retreat in disorder. "Now," Captain Choi said, "we send our message." The humans did not pursue the fleeing Ravagers. Instead, they let them go, but not before broadcasting a message on all frequencies. "This is Captain Choi Minjun to all Ravager forces. You came to human space seeking easy prey. You found only predators. You attacked a diplomatic mission under our protection. We consider this an act of war. Leave now and tell your leaders this. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. Come to our space again, and we will come to yours." The remaining Ravager ships fled into the darkness of space. The battle was over. The human forces did not celebrate. They immediately began rescue operations, pulling wounded from damaged stations, putting out fires, accounting for casualties. 14 humans had died in the battle. 53 were wounded. An entire defense platform was gone. Part of Colony Sabiok had been destroyed again. Commander Zeek stood among the wreckage, watching humans work. They mourned their dead with quiet dignity. They helped their wounded without complaint. They started rebuilding before the smoke had even cleared. "Why?" he asked Captain Choi, who had come down from his station. "Why sacrifice so much for a prince whose empire despises you?" Captain Choi looked at him with tired eyes. "Commander, let me ask you a question. If we had refused to protect the prince, if we had let him die because his empire does not like us, what would that make us?" "Crime." "Practical," Commander Zix replied. "Monsters," Captain Choi corrected. "It would make us the monsters the galaxy already thinks we are. Humans decided long ago that we would rather die doing what is right than live by doing what is easy." He walked away to help with the wounded, leaving Commander Zix standing alone with a truth he could not ignore. Human space was not feared because humans were evil. It was feared because humans held themselves to impossible standards and expected to pay impossible prices. And they did it all, without hesitation, without complaint, without ever asking if it was fair. That was the real horror of humanity. Not their weapons or their strategies or their determination. It was their absolute refusal to compromise their principles, even when those principles cost everything. The journey back to Galactic Council space was quiet. Prince Thalax spent most of the time staring out the window at the stars. Commander Zeeks wrote his report in careful detail, knowing no one would truly believe him. The rest of the crew tried to process what they had witnessed. As they crossed back over the border, their instruments returned to normal. The wrongness faded. Space became predictable again. But none of them felt relief. They felt like they had left something important behind. The Galactic Council chamber was packed when they arrived. Every species wanted to hear about human space. The rumors had already spread. A rescue mission had entered the Forbidden Zone and returned alive. Some said it was a miracle. Others said it proved humans were not as dangerous as everyone thought. Commander Zeke stood before the council to give his report. He looked different now. Older somehow. Though only 2 weeks had passed. "Speaker Vorn, honored delegates," he began. I have returned with Prince Thalax, alive and unharmed. The rescue mission was a success. Cheers erupted from the Vex delegation. Empress Valix wept openly. Emperor Krex stood with his hand over his heart in gratitude. But Commander Zeeks was not finished. However, I must report something more important than the rescue. I must tell you the truth about human space, and why it is feared. The chamber went silent. Human space is defended by thousands of hidden weapons. Zeeks continued. Their colonies are fortresses disguised as farms. Their civilian ships carry military-grade weapons. Every structure, every system, every piece of infrastructure is designed for war. Worried murmurs filled the chamber. This confirmed their worst fears. But, Zeke said loudly, silencing them, this is not because humans are conquerors. It is because humans are survivors. He told them everything, about Li Hyunwoo and Colony Saibyok, about the Ravager attack, and how farmers became soldiers in minutes, about Captain Choi and how humans sacrificed their own people to protect a prince whose empire had never helped them. The wrongness you feel in human space, Zeeks explained, is not supernatural. It is psychological. You are sensing humanity's constant state of readiness. They never rest. They never assume safety. They never believe peace will last. Why would anyone live that way? Asked Counselor Thresh. Ambassador Kira Mincio stood. May I explain, Commander? Zix nodded and stepped aside. Kira looked around at all the species represented in the chamber. How many of your worlds have tried to kill you? How many of you evolved on planets where every day was a battle for survival? No one answered. Earth tried to kill humanity every single day, Kira said. Predators, diseases, disasters, extreme weather. We nearly went extinct 6 times. 6 different times. We stood on the edge of oblivion and had to fight our way back. She walked to the holographic display and brought up an image of Earth. It looked beautiful, blue and green and peaceful. This is a death world, Kira said. Gravity strong enough to crush most species. Weather violent enough to destroy cities. Diseases that evolve faster than medicine. And we lived there for millions of years, learning one lesson over and over. Nothing is safe, nothing is guaranteed, and you must always be ready. So you brought that lesson to the stars, Speaker Vorn said quietly. We had no choice, Kira replied. It is not in our nature to assume peace will last. We want peace. We work for peace. But we always prepare for war. Prince Thalax stood, his voice shaking but determined. May I speak? Speaker Forn nodded. The young prince addressed the entire council. I went into human space thinking I understood fear. I was wrong. The humans are not what we think. Yes, they are ready for war. Yes, they have weapons everywhere. Yes, they fight with a ferocity that terrifies. He paused, collecting his thoughts. But they are also the first species to rescue someone who hates them. The first to treat wounded enemies. The first to sacrifice their own lives for a stranger's child. I watched humans die to protect me. People who owed me nothing. People whose empire I come from has only shown them contempt. Empress Valix stood beside her son. My people have feared humans. We have voted against them in every council measure. We have spread rumors about their cruelty. And yet, when my child needed help, they came. When he was in danger, they died for him. She looked directly at Kira. Ambassador Mincio, the Vex Empire owes humanity a debt we can never repay. You gave me back my son. You gave my son a future. And you asked for nothing. We ask for understanding, Kira said simply. That is all we have ever asked for. The council debated for hours. Some wanted to maintain the borders and keep fearing humanity. Others argued that fear was based on misunderstanding. A few suggested learning from human preparedness instead of condemning it. Finally, Speaker Vorn called for order. The council, must decide. Do we continue to treat human space as forbidden, or do we acknowledge that our fear was based on incomplete information? The vote was closer than anyone expected. In the end, the Council agreed to lift the absolute ban on entering human space. Travel would still be restricted and monitored, but it would no longer be forbidden. Species who wished to learn from humans could request permission to visit their colonies. It was a small change, but it was a beginning. After the session ended, Commander Zeeks found Kira standing alone, looking at the star map. "Ambassador, I must ask you something personal." "Go ahead, Commander." "Are humans afraid? Despite all your preparation and weapons and determination, do you feel fear?" Kira smiled sadly. "Every single day, Commander. We are terrified. Terrified of failing. Terrified of losing what we love. Terrified of not being ready when danger comes." "Then how do you function? How do you live?" "We decide that fear will not stop us," Kira said. "We acknowledge the fear, and then we do what needs to be done anyway. That is the real human strength. Not that we do not feel fear, but that we act despite it." Commander Zeeks nodded slowly. "I understand now. Human space is feared because you remind the galaxy of something we have forgotten. What is that? That safety is earned, not given. That peace requires strength. That the price of civilization is constant vigilance." He looked at her directly. "You remind us that comfort makes us weak, and we hate you for it." "We do not want to be hated," Kira said. "We just want to survive, to build, to grow, to protect what we love." "I know," Zeeks replied. "And that is why I recommended that the Kronar military send officers to train with human forces. We have much to learn." Months passed. The galaxy slowly began to see humanity differently. It was not a transformation, just a small shift in perspective. Some species remained terrified. Others became curious. A few brave individuals requested to visit human colonies and learn. Prince Thalax visited Colony Taesong again, this time bringing gifts and formal thanks from his empire. He spent weeks there, learning from the colonists, understanding their way of life. Li Hyun-woo returned to his farming, but now he taught defensive tactics to visiting aliens who wanted to learn. His son Min-ho's strategy was studied in military academies across 3 sectors. Dr. Park Soo-jin started a medical exchange program, teaching alien doctors human emergency medicine. The techniques were brutal and direct, designed for the worst situations, but they saved lives. Captain Choi Min-jun remained at his post, watching the borders, always ready. He knew the galaxy was changing, but he also knew that danger never really went away. So he watched, and he waited, and he prepared. And in the Galactic Council chamber, the map of the galaxy still showed human space in red. But now, some species looked at that red and saw not a warning, but a promise. A promise that someone, somewhere, was always watching, always ready, always prepared to pay the price that others would not. Human space would always be feared. That would never change. But now, at least some understood why. Not because humans were monsters, but because they were the mirror that showed the galaxy its own comfortable complacency. They were the voice that whispered uncomfortable truths. They were the reminder that safety is an illusion, and peace is a privilege that must be defended. And perhaps most frightening of all, they were proof that survival requires sacrifice, that you must be willing to give everything to protect what matters. The stars had always known this. The stars had watched humanity claw its way from the dirt of a death world to the heights of space, never stopping, never surrendering, never accepting defeat. That was why no one braved human space. Because to enter it was to confront the question that every species feared to answer. What would you sacrifice? How far would you go? What would you become to protect those you love? Humans had answered those questions with their entire civilization. They had built their answer into every ship, every station, every colony. The answer was simple and absolute and terrifying in its totality. Everything, always, without question, And in the darkness of space, the stars themselves seemed to whisper that truth to anyone willing to listen. This was humanity. This was their gift and their curse. This was why they were feared, and why they would always be necessary. Because someone had to be willing to stand guard while others slept. Someone had to be ready when danger came. Someone had to remember that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of preparation. Humanity had chosen that burden willingly, and they would carry it forever, watching the stars, waiting for threats, protecting a galaxy that feared them. That was the truth beyond the fear. That was why human space glowed red on every map, not as a warning to stay away, but as a beacon that someone, somewhere, was standing watch.